Okay, it appears we are ready to go. So I would like to call to order the March 13th meeting of the Ad Hoc Committee to review the flag display policy for the city of Battle Creek. If the clerk would note the attendance for the record. And then I need a motion to approve the minutes from February 27, 2023, unless there are any changes to those minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lance.
Support.
Support by Commissioner Simmons. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Commissioner Simmons and Commissioner Ballard, would you care to weigh in on the minutes?
Aye.
I'm sorry, I was muted. I said aye, but I was muted. So aye.
Thank you. The minutes from February 27th are approved. So we get down to the business of our meeting to discuss the flag display policy. Jill, did you want to start us off? I think you had some homework, for lack of a better way to describe.
Yeah, so I did some more research. There aren't other cases that have come up about flags, but there is flags, monuments, painting Black Lives Matter, the city painting Black Lives Matters on the street. They're all analogized under the same theory. Is it a limited public forum or not? And so I have a case here from May of 2022, May 27th, and then January 27th of 2023. And they're both going back to the City of Boston, Schertloff versus City of Boston case that I mentioned to you about and gave you the guidelines. And so I wanted to, and so, number one, it doesn't have to be a flag display to do this analogy. The analogy is the same. And I wanted to read you another little excerpt from the Supreme Court's Schertloff versus City of Boston case that I think, so that's the one where they had no policy. They were letting members of the public had for years just apply and let's put up this flag. They'd let everybody do it until they got to a Christian one, and then they denied it. And so then a lawsuit was filed, and the Supreme Court said that they created a limited public forum. They didn't have a policy. They were letting people apply to do it. And by creating a limited public forum, they then couldn't discriminate based on the speech, so that it wasn't government speech. So here's an excerpt from that case where the Fifth Circuit noticed the Supreme Court rejected the city's argument that the flag flying policy was government speech, but made clear that, quote, nothing prevents Boston from changing its policies going forward. The court also suggested that the city might clarify, as other cities did, that, quote, flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public, and that flags approved for flying are selected, quote, as an expression of the city's official sentiments, unquote. So, those are both things in our policy. And so, I mean, that's the same thing that's carried through, and the Black Lives Matter case from just a few weeks after this one, something I wanted to note for you there. The fact that private parties take part in the design and propagation of a message does not extinguish the governmental nature of the message or transform the government's role into that of a mere forum provider. And when the government speaks for itself, it's not barred by the free speech clause from determining the content of what it says. So that, there's a three-part test that they look at. laid out again in this City of Boston case. Number one, whether the medium has historically been used to communicate messages from the states, which certainly with the flags that we fly, that the flagpoles, yes, that's communicating a message from the states. Whether the medium is often closely identified in the public mind with the state. In other words, whether it's reasonably interpreted as conveying some message on the government's behalf, certainly that would apply here. And three, whether the government maintains direct editorial control over the message's content. And in the Black Lives Matter painting, for instance, they said that they were painted at the behest of Mayor Bill de Blasio. They exercised editorial control over the murals. In this situation with this process, this policy, the flags are displayed by City Commission resolution. And, the resolution, so again, important not to let people apply to do this, no application to do it. But as is noted in the Black Lives Matter case, just because, a third party suggests the idea, you can take it up or not. And really the policy that's been enacted, the policy here is the City Commission giving direction to staff. Here's what our policy is. Don't bring us a resolution that is not in compliance with this policy. And certainly the City Commission can change it, can amend it, can get rid of it. But that's the purpose of the policy, is to let the city manager's office know, here's the kind of things we'll accept. That you can bring to us and let us vote on it or not. So hopefully that's helpful to you.
Thank you. So, commissioners, thoughts?
Well,
Commissioners?
I guess I'll throw out the first pitch.
Okay,
I think one of the things that we need is how it gets, how the resolution gets on or before us. I understand that at our last conversation, basically it could go to the city manager, and the city manager can just throw it on our thing, on our agenda. And I guess I would prefer to have a few more controls in there, or more consensus before it just gets on our agenda. I think it protects the city manager and probably protects us as well. But that's, I guess, where I would like to see something. I mean, if I understand it correctly, if I want to get a resolution on the agenda, it takes me and two other commissioners to support that. So I guess I would want something modeled along those lines.
so you're asking that at a minimum, one of the changes that we would suggest is a specific process that would require commissioners to, the three commissioners to request through the city manager and the city attorney that a resolution be drafted to fly a commemorative flag.
Right.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
That'd be
Chris,
about
go
the only, that'd be about the only thing I would have right now. I mean, again, we just passed this a couple years ago. I wasn't thrilled with having a policy just in general, but we have one. And, the last thing I want to do is have a discussion every 2 years on a flag policy when a new group of commissioners gets in. So, I wasn't happy that we have a policy in the first place, but we passed it. It's here. I guess I would just rather, instead of revoking it entirely, I would prefer just to make it a little streamlined process, if you will. So that's all.
Okay. Commissioner Simmons?
So, I was going to say something very similar to Commissioner Lance. I wasn't on the commission 2 years ago when that passed, but I probably would have had a very similar sentiment to him as far as changing the policy or creating a policy where we've not had one in the 150 some years, 100, however long the city's been in existence. That being said, I had said I'd probably be in favor of rescinding it. I don't think that would be the consensus of the commission from what I'm hearing. So then let's make it more workable. And so what my thought was very similar to what Commissioner Lance just outlined, is that I do think, while I appreciate the city attorney's review of other ordinances, and I appreciate what she said about it. It needs to be the commission's direction, or the commission's I forget the term that she used, but it's our speech. Basically, it's as a body, it's our speech. So when the city manager can decide unilaterally to add something to our agenda, is that really our speech? I mean, ultimately, yes, we get to vote on it, but and in the case of the Pan-African flag, I believe they told me it was the city manager and the mayor had put that on there. And then, like every other resolution, I think Commissioner Lance mentioned that would require 3 commissioners basically to co-sponsor it. So I guess I would be in favor of something similar if we want that on the agenda. Now, if somebody approaches the city manager in the future with a request, and the city managers say, here's the contact information for all of our commissioners, please reach out to them. And then maybe you can get someone or you can get 3 of them to co-sponsor it. I had my monthly meeting with the city manager actually just right before this meeting. And I understand we have received another, not an application, that's not what we take, but a request from Blue Star Mothers. So my question would be, how did that come to us? And how is that being presented to commissioners? Did they approach a commissioner and the commissioner approached the city manager about that? Again, there needs to be, I think, a clear delineation of how these come to us. There was another one that I think I brought up, the Sanctity of Life one, that never even came to any of us because it was just dismissed outright as a religious. Some people might argue that wasn't necessarily a religious thing. It could have been more of a moral thing. But again, that should have been up to the commission if 3 commissioners wanted to put that forward, and it wasn't overtly religious. Anyway, I guess I would support what Commissioner Lance, that suggestion of having in the policy that 3 commissioners would bring that forward and not. But again, it's within the city managers. I'm thinking out loud here too, in the city manager's purview to add things to our agenda. I'm interested in hearing what everybody else has to say. Thank you.
Commissioner Ballard?
I'm in favor of leaving it the way it is. I think our city attorney, who we pay, has put it out there. What research has been done through the city of Boston. I would like to hear from Rebecca as far as how it's been approached to her before, and has she then bounced it off just the mayor, or has she made a decision on herself? I'm not sure how putting it back in the hands of the commissioners is streamlining it, because it seemed pretty streamlined going to Rebecca. And that's where I'll leave that.
Can I offer something?
Okay, go ahead.
So, if the recommendation is to make it similar, revise the policy by making it similar to how a commissioner that it would require that piece of a commissioner, actually wants to have this done. I mean, that's fine. If that's what the commission wants, that can be done. I would certainly discourage telling people to go ask commissioners, because that feels like an application process where they get, it came to the mayor. it came to the mayor, and I think the mayor and Rebecca spoke. Anybody can certainly mention anything to any of the commissioners. Commissioners could then decide, hey, and certainly would have to if that's what the resolution would be. But, I think that it's best to leave it as it comes to your attention. It comes to the city manager's attention, or you maybe see that there is some other flag and you feel like that's something she wants to raise, or it comes to a commissioner. I mean, certainly that's fine if a citizen wants to contact a commissioner, but I would discourage us from telling them that's the process, is you contact a commissioner to get it going. So that's my input.
Since that was my suggestion about the city manager, can I follow up on that? Chair?
Go ahead.
So my concern is then if it goes through the city manager, but the city manager can unilaterally decide that, oh, this is not going to, or the city manager and the mayor could decide that this is not going to go before the commission. We never even are aware of it. And it might be something that the commission as a whole might support. So yeah, for example, like this Blue Star Mother one, it's the first I heard of it today. I'm not sure who came to the city and to whom they came with the proposal, the Blue Star Mothers. I don't know if you're even tracking that, Jill. I guess that I'm seeing a breakdown of how it ultimately gets to us, who decides how it ultimately gets to us, makes us aware of the request in the first place.
So I think this would be a good time for Rebecca to answer. I think that the person that wanted the Sanctity of Life flag, when Rebecca didn't advance it because she didn't feel like it complied with the policy, I think the commissioners had all been made aware of that as well. I think the person contacted them and there was not a commissioner that was interested in taking it up. So Rebecca, please share what actually has happened.
Thank you. And it hasn't happened very often. So to Commissioner Ballard's question and et cetera, right. It has come either into the city manager's office as a discussion or it's come through the mayor. Most of the time, it's been a dual contact between the mayor and the city manager's office. So let me just talk about Sanctity of Life. And Jill is correct. How, I interpreted the policy is that the policy was approved by the commission. And I use that as a guide to advance something if it is aligned with the policy. How the Sanctity of Life flag was described to me was very religious in nature. Whether it is or isn't, that's how it was presented to me. And it was and I knew that this person had also contacted other commissioners who didn't seem to disagree with that analogy. Thus, it didn't come forward. The Pan-African flag did go to the mayor as well as the city manager's office. The same for the Blue Star Mothers. A lot of times their inquiries start with the mayor and the city manager's office, or the mayor will say you need to also contact the city manager's office. So in the few instances that we've talked to, that's how it has come forward. Most of the time too, I will have mentioned it in a weekly update, or I will have mentioned it in our one-on-one meetings, particularly the Sanctity of Life, because I knew this person had already reached out to probably the majority of the commissioners individually in regards to the request. Blue Star Mothers was the same again. Mayor, city manager's office. And we asked that particular group to hold until the ad hoc policy committee, the flag policy committee had met and decided, do we need to amend the policy? We don't want to advance something that perhaps could be, if the policy is going to be amended. And I can say that has happened with each one of the requests, including the pride flag.
So how many, can somebody tell me how many requests we've had and then how many we've approved and how many just never made it to us? Because I don't know that we've ever, as a body, voted against allowing a flag to be flown. But how many requests have we had that you thought might get to us? And so that's my first question. And then let me go back to the sanctity of life thing after.
So I've just told it, pride, sanctity of life, Pan-African, Blue Star Mothers,
Okay, so that's it.
4 requests.
Four
And
requests.
of the 4, only 1 didn't advance.
Okay. So it's my recollection that the entire commission was being copied on the correspondence with regard to the pride flag, or with regard to the sanctity of life flag, because she was upset about the the pride flag being flown. And so then she wanted the sanctity of life flag. And I was opposed to the flag ordinance when we introduced it. I have not voted yes on a single flag. So I was not about to start championing any flag at that point. And it was my recollection that the city attorney had weighed in and said that this is a religious flag, and under our policy would not be allowed. Is that accurate?
So the flag suggestions that I have had, there are, with that particular one, certainly Jill and I had discussions about that. And you're right. I think that there was a copying of all commissioners and then some discussion. At least that was what was indicated to me. Whether that person did or did not, I was under the impression both ways, the copy and the reach out.
Okay.
And that's correct. That those are the 4 suggestions, and that is the one that, they were, the very first one was the pride flag. And so you're right. I think that was a response to that. And again, the suggestion, I put it up against the litmus of the policy that was approved by the commission. And always I do try to run things by Jill just to make sure I'm reading the policy correctly. And it was new. And I'm certainly not a lawyer.
But you play one on TV.
And certainly any of the commissioners, when they became aware of it, could have filled out the form, gotten 2 other commissioners to co-sponsor it, and then a resolution would have come forward to let the commission as a whole make a decision about that. But Rebecca said, I mean, I certainly didn't receive any requests.
Okay.
I'm sure that, Rebecca, you probably did send it in something, but I'll be honest with you, I don't remember reading it in all the reading that I do.
Well, the sanctity of life would have been prior to your time, Commissioner.
Makes sense. Thanks.
And I haven't had, again, the Pan-African has been the only suggestion since the new commission.
Gotcha.
And how did we determine?
And now the Blue Star Mothers, excuse me. I also have that suggestion. It's just holding for the work of this committee.
Sure.
And I understand, Rebecca, that the sanctity of life flag was you were under the belief that it was a religious flag. Is there help me understand why you thought that.
How it was suggested to me was very much rooted based on a certain religious belief.
But we don't know that the flag itself was had religious undertones, if that makes sense, or there were religious depictions on the flag or anything like that.
Yeah, because that is true. The question was, is there a flag? And so that was one of the things that we had, discussed and talked about. And I don't recall receiving a picture of a sanctity of life flag. Please forgive me, it's been a little bit, but I think that was a question too. Is there a flag that exists that represents the sanctity of life? But I think, I didn't pursue it any further once, I felt like it was completely described to me as religious in nature, and a discussion with the commission, or excuse me, a discussion with the city attorney, and it didn't advance.
Because that's been one of my concerns over this ordinance is that there is no requirement that they, whether it's the Sanctity of Life or any other organization, that they say, this is our flag and this is what it looks like. And this is what this is what the proposal is to be flown, either to you or to us as commissioners. I mean, I don't know what the flag looks like until I see it on the flagpole. So that was, Jill?
I was just going to suggest, and to address that concern, maybe you would be looking at one of the policies I mentioned at our last meeting where it's tied to a federal holiday or a federal proclamation. Just a suggestion, it's up to you. Kind of cuts through having to really examine flags, see, is this a real flag? Does it exist, etc.
Commissioner Ballard?
Yeah, I smile because I listen to Xfinity Radio, and one of the station guys reads off every day what every day is, like National Pickle Day.
Oh,
and Sirius XM. And there's 25 things on every day, so it wouldn't surprise me if there's a national day for something. So just throwing it out there for what you say.
Well, that policy, it was federal holidays or a presidential proclamation. I think probably what you're talking about, Commissioner Ballard, is maybe the Facebook National Sons Day, National Daughters Day,
Right.
National Dog Day. So probably not quite as broad.
Okay. And I also, in the short time here that we had in regards to the sanctity of human life, I don't see any flag per se. I do see in January 23, it says that we'll commemorate the 39th year of our nation as observed the sanctity of human life. And this year we are celebrating the overturning of Roe versus Wade. Sanctity of life. But it does not show a flag. You can Google that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Commissioner Simmons, you look like, yes.
Yeah, I had Googled the Sanctity of Life, specifically Sanctity of Life flag, and the one that was prominent was it had like two little baby footprints on it, and it was like a blue and a pink flag, and that's pretty much all it said. It didn't really have any religious connotation or anything on it. I'm not sure if that's the one that they wanted flown. I don't know. So because as Rebecca said, this was prior to us joining. Commissioner Ballard and I joined the commission, so we didn't have any information on it. I was made aware of it by the clerk's office, who was tracking it for some reason. So that's when I looked into it. So whether or not it was religious in nature, I know people who are not particularly religious, but believe in sanctity of life for things like the death penalty. So it doesn't necessarily have to be religious, but I appreciate what the city manager said, how it was portrayed to her sounded like it was coming more from a religious standpoint as far as their desire to have that flag flown. And I guess the final thing that I would like to say about this is at what I can foresee as these continue to come to us, and then each year they'll probably want them flown again at that same time. That we never actually get to hoist the City of Battle Creek flag up on our pole if they can go for a full 30 days. That means we have 12 different organizations that fly their flags, and we'd never have that up. There was a suggestion I had by some folks. I think there are 3 or 4 folks that I heard from about a separate flag pole. I appreciate Commissioner Ballard. We talked about this at the last meeting, like, okay, we don't want to relegate this to some unseen location, but could it be flown, like we still have the city flag and it could be flown under that, or somewhere in the very near, prominent at City Hall, somewhere like that. When I actually take the city flag down and put this other thing up, because again, I foresee now we have 3 or 4 of them that we never get to fly the city flag again. So just a thought.
I also, go ahead, Commissioner Ballard.
Oh, I just touched my phone and things went crazy. But anyway, I just wanted to say, me personally would not be opposed to putting a second link on the city flagpole and put it underneath the city flag, having the city flag fly at the same time. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Another option is, I think the policy says up to or not to exceed 30 days. You could certainly change that and say, there's not going to be more than 1 a month, and it's only going to be for 2 weeks or
Can't give it.
something. Or certainly a second link.
Yeah. I don't want to see us getting into a position where, we get the Sanctity of Life flag flown for 2 weeks and the Planned Parenthood flag gets flown for 2 weeks. I mean, that just seems, it seems counterproductive, because I think it just serves to divide a community about things that we really shouldn't be dividing the community on.
Right.
That's just my personal opinion, but when I think about the city and city functions, I try and be attentive to those things that the city does need to be providing, and then think beyond that. Okay, what should the city be supporting? And I envision a somewhat slippery slope, and I'm not sure how to go about rectifying that at all. I still have the concerns too about political party flags. Since there is not a specific prohibition on that, at least in my estimation, based on my reading of the policy. What are Commissioner Simmons, Commissioner Lance, Commissioner Ballard, how do we want to proceed? I mean, I think that we've talked about this and we've kind of talked in a big circle. Commissioner Ballard thinks, flag policy is fine as it is. Commissioner Lance and Commissioner Simmons are both saying that we need to be more specific on requiring it to go through a process, and maybe it would be up to the mayor. If it comes into the city manager's office, the city manager would have to turn it over to the mayor, and then the mayor would be responsible for finding or handing it off to a commissioner and saying, here. I understand Jill's concern about, we don't want this to become like an application process, because that leads us down an entirely different path that could end us up in court. Commissioner Simmons, did you want to?
No, I'm sorry. Something popped up on my screen. I was trying to get rid of it so I could see your face. But you know what? I don't know what. I'm not sure I'm hearing a consensus of everybody on a direction to go. I do really like the idea of having a little, Vice Mayor Sophia, your suggestion of somehow being able to prevent contentious things from coming on there. And thus far, with the exception of the Sanctity of Life thing, everything I'm hearing is not so much contentious, but we just have the potential And then what happens when the makeup of the commission changes and we have a group of folks that want to push their agenda that might be not in line with the majority of the commission, and it comes to us and it becomes a very contentious issue. So some a little bit more stringent criteria. I think Jill had mentioned some entity, some city had a policy that no political or no racial or no, I can't remember the list, but it eliminated a lot of the contentious kind of things. And then I do maybe like the suggestion of there has to be some kind of some kind of a little bit more stringent presidential proclamation kind of thing, or tied to something that's like a legitimate organization. I can see an organization that can be pretty radical trying to push something, but it's maybe not accepted in the mainstream. So how you weed those out, that's tough. Yeah.
City Attorney Steele?
Yes, Vice Mayor, you said maybe to prohibit political parties. I think you had also mentioned to me or political candidates, flags associated with either of those.
Yes, yes.
That's something that's not in the policy now and certainly could be added. Commissioner Simmons, I'm trying to remember exactly. I don't have it in front of me. But yeah, I mentioned the policy, maybe it was at Muskegon. I can't remember exactly which one, but certainly I could put together a draft that works, kind of blend what we have now, work it with that. I mean, just let me know.
Vice Mayor, if I may. Jill, the ones that we did talk about, they actually specified the certain flags and only those could be flown. You talked about Livonia and Muskegon. You said Grand Rapids has an administrative policy, but then I think Commissioner Ballard or Commissioner Simmons talked about the presidential proclamation. My notes said honors those created by presidential proclamation and federal holidays. I think that was Oak Park. I think there was a lot of discussion around Oak Park being, a little bit more specific in that. And certainly if that would be helpful.
Commissioner Ballard?
So if I'm hearing that correctly, then 4 years we'll have it, 4 years we won't, when the president changes from time to time?
Well, that's, I think it's the same with
So that sounds political to me.
my preference would be to do away with the flag policy entirely and just
I know
not
what you-
buy any flags.
I
And then we
understand.
don't have to worry about the politics federally or the politics locally, and we just go about doing the business of the city. But I am one of
Well,
nine.
The business of the city is to represent all of their citizens, not just a certain segment of the citizens.
The business of the city, in my estimation, is to make sure that when you turn on the water faucet, you get clean, potable water, that sewer water runs away from your house, that your streets are plowed. And when you call 911, the appropriate agency responds. That is the role of the city, again, in my estimation.
I understand.
Commissioner Lance, did you want to weigh in again?
No, this has been scintillating and exciting. I'm ready to call it. So
Jill, I don't know that have we given you anything to move forward with? I mean, I feel like we've talked in circles, we've touched on a lot of different things. And I don't know that there's really a consensus.
I guess the best that I'm getting out of this is amended to prohibit political parties, political candidates. Put in a requirement either that the city manager will discuss suggestions brought to the city manager's attention with the mayor, or that they could only come before the city commission if there's a resolution that has some detail of what it would be, and that it would be also co-sponsored by 2 other commissioners.
Well, how about we do this, Jill? I mean, I see you're so concerned about the citizens contacting and each commissioner. That never happens. Why don't we just have this? If any flag that comes in, it goes still how you're doing it. The city manager and mayor can talk about it, but every commissioner gets notified of a flag that comes in as a request. Period.
I don't have a problem with that. I just didn't want to encourage citizens to ask commissioners. If they do it, fine. I just don't want to make that part of the policy.
Can we also make sure that they are including a representation of what the flag would look like? I mean,
Sure,
that's
sure.
again been part of my contention about this is, what do these flags look like? $100 and Google, and I can have a flag.
Here's what I would
Anything you want.
Here's what I would suggest is, rather than put that out there that people should do that, say that no resolution will come before the commission for approval on this without a depiction of what the flag will actually look like.
Makes sense.
Commissioner Ballard, Commissioner Simmons.
I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that. And then can we circle back? Because I think Commissioner Ballard and I may have been on the same page about potentially not pulling down the city flag, but putting up, a second clip under that to fly these. And I would go a little bit further and say maybe limited, instead of a full 30 days, limited to a shorter period of time. Because again, everybody's going to always ask for 30 days if that's in our policy. And I think that's a long time. But I don't know what the other, sound like Commissioner Ballard was open to that. If anyone else was open to that, as well as not pulling down the city flag, but putting this up under.
Go ahead.
Yes, I would agree with what you're saying there, Chris. If anybody wants to know what it would look like, look at St. Thomas's Church. They have the United States flag on top and they have the Christian flag underneath. That's the example I would use for the city flag, and then Pan American flag or whatever underneath the city flag. It would require, as I've noticed at our church, some additional things put on the flag pole or line to hold 2 flags at one time.
So a logistical question to the city manager. Is this, I'm assuming it's doable, but how much is that? I mean, what are the logistics behind that? And I don't expect that you will know this off the top of your head unless you are suddenly
Actually,
a flagpole expert.
I actually do know it,
Oh my
because I think, and I don't have our flag policy up, but I think we talked about whether if there were only 2 flags present, then it would be a clip, or it's provided underneath the city flag, or whatever the pole limitations are. So we actually have that mechanisms for our flag poles.
I can tell
But
you,
you're right, it's a clip, and then,
I have it up.
okay. Was I remembering that correctly?
Flags shall be displayed as possible: United States, first flag, Michigan flag in the second position of honor, City of Battle Creek in the third. And then when authorized by the city commission, commemorative flag shall be displayed in the third position of honor, temporarily replacing the City of Battle Creek flag. And whereas if all flags are displayed on one flagpole, the order from top to bottom shall be United States flag, Michigan state flag, City of Battle Creek flag, then the commemorative flag. So it would kind of be a twist on that. That it would be,
And strictly the city flag.
that it would fly, the commemorative flag would fly beneath the City of Battle Creek flag.
Mhm.
So the way you read that, it sounds like the commemorative flag replaces the city flag.
It does
Unless
where,
all four are on, unless they're all on one flagpole,
right.
in which case.
So
So
that would change if that's what the desire is, that, so it's kind of addressing the two, like, I think there's one flagpole, say at Claude Evans Park, although I don't know.
No,
No.
I think there's more than one flag at Claude Evans, but like
Okay,
DPW, I think only has one flag. Or the fire department only has one flagpole, but
okay, so if the desire is, it's never going to replace the City of Battle Creek flag, it'll fly beneath it.
and I think that that's what Commissioners Ballard and Simmons are saying is, instead of replacing the City of Battle Creek flag, it would fly beneath. Because it's only displayed in one spot in the city, correct? And that's between City Hall and PD.
Police station.
Okay.
Correct.
and can I just ask for a clarification? We talked about, so if the policy will amend to say that the city flag is not removed, that a commemorative flag would go beneath the city flag. Is there still the desire then for us to shorten the time frame too? Only because I thought the shorten the time frame was a discussion on, we don't want the city flag down all the time, but if the city flag is going to be up, it's just a clarification. Do you still want to reduce it to the 2 weeks? Or, right now the policy states no more than 30 days. It's just a clarification, because now we're never going to remove, if the commission approves the amendment, we would never take the city flag down. We would just simply be adding a commemorative flag below it as authorized by the commission.
And currently it is displayed for a period of time that is reasonable or customary for the subject that's to be commenced, but no longer than 30 continuous days.
Commissioner Simmons, did you want to say something?
So yeah, like I said earlier, and I'm glad to hear that we could accommodate it under the city flag and don't have to take the city flag down. Again, most entities I think that ask for this are probably going to want to do it for the full 30 days. So that means we're limited to about 12 a year. And then I can imagine they want to come back every year and do the same thing again. So very quick, our calendar would be full. And then we'd have to be turning other people away. Oh no, that's, this is this entity's month, and this other is this other entity's month. And I do want to, if indeed we want to be serious about this and be inclusive and entertain others, I would say shortening the time period would be my preference. 2 weeks, I think, is reasonable.
But so remember, this is the government speech. So we're not accommodating people and talking about turning people away and not. I mean, we don't want to get into that slippery slope.
Okay, but do you see, Jill, what I'm saying about?
I understand what you're saying.
He's going to say, I can see, next year, the Pan-African flag, you did it last year for this whole month, do it again this next year. It becomes an expectation for a whole month, and our calendar would be, I think, pretty full quickly. And then so then does it become an issue of, okay, who gets there first? Or this is reserved for this month? That's the question that I can see it. Somebody wants their flag flown for this month, another wants their flag flown for that same month, and then it becomes could become a contentious issue.
Yeah. So my concern is saying things like we're trying to accommodate everybody, because everybody's suggestions are not necessarily going to become government speech. And what we've had this policy in place for a couple of years, and we've only had a handful of resolutions that have come forward. Again, I just want to point out to you the kind of, like, we don't want to give people the expectation that they're going to make a suggestion and we're going to try to accommodate everybody, because that's what creates a problem. I mean, presumably, the commission is not going to feel strongly enough about all of the suggestions and is going to be thoughtful about, is this what I want as government speech? Is this something that's an important position for us to take? Sorry, have to be a lawyer.
Commissioner Ballard?
I'm not necessarily opposed to a shorter period, but I'm thinking that we have had 4 requests, 1 or 3 that actually will fly. And I'm just trying to think as I'm talking here. I had it in my head and then it went away here for a second, so sorry.
Suggestions.
Yeah, oh, that was it. It was Jill that said for up to 30 days. If we had a conflict, could we not say we have a conflict and we're only going to approve for 15 days or whatever, 2 weeks, whatever, for a certain spot that has been asked? It can be up to 30 days, but we don't have to say 30 days. Does that make sense?
I think we can do whatever we want. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
And we have the latitude to make that time frame shorter should we choose. And we've only had 3 different organizations ask.
Mhm.
One organization has gotten twice, one organization once, and one organization never made it to the commission. So it's 4:55. We've got about 5 minutes to go. Jill, do you feel like you have enough to go on there?
I have some confusion about Commissioner Lance. It sounded, I'm not sure if he suggested kind of a revised, that the city manager will, before bringing forward a resolution, notify all commissioners about suggestions that have been raised, or is it that it's going to require a city commissioner to put it in writing, present it, and have 2 other commissioners co-sponsor?
If anybody sends a request, anyone, whether a commissioner or a citizen or whomever, goes, if it goes to the city manager or whoever, whatever the city manager hears wind of it, it needs to, that request needs to go out to the commission, not for a vote on it, just so that we are on notice of it.
And so is that in addition to requiring a city commissioner that the city manager couldn't put forth a resolution on her own? It would have to come from a commissioner with being co-sponsored.
I'm getting rid of the three
Okay.
person.
Okay, that's the clarification I was looking for.
Yeah, because I figured if it doesn't come before the commission, let's say the city, so let's say we'll walk through the process. So a citizen contacts the city manager's office, says, I want to raise the white flag, black flag, green flag, whatever flag. City manager just notifies, all the commissioners. And let's say with talks with the mayor and legal counsel, the city manager decides for whatever reason not to proceed with putting it on a resolution. So 4 months later, 3 city managers are happen to have coffee, and they say, "Hey, did you ever see whatever happened to that one flag?" Oh, I don't know. Well, I obviously the 3 city commissioners can, on their own, bring a resolution to put a flag, if I'm not mistaken, under the current process. So that's how I would envision it. As long as we're as long as we're aware of what's going on, because again, I had no idea that the flag that Chris has been referencing was even put forth. So, you know, as long as we know what's going on, I guess we'll leave it up to the current discretion that it is the mayor and city manager.
Okay, and then it's going to be the City of Battle Creek flag will never be displaced. It will always be displayed underneath of it. We're going to add in a prohibition about political parties or political candidate flags, and no resolution will be put on the agenda without an actual depiction of the commemorative flag.
I would be in favor of all those suggestions.
So that's what I have in my notes. Have I missed anything?
Commissioner Ballard, Commissioner Simmons, do you have anything else to add? No? Okay. So the next item on our agenda is future meeting needs and dates. I think that, do we want to, as a group, take a look at what Jill prepares before we send it as a recommendation to the full commission?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So then our next meeting would be after Jill is able. So Jill, once you're able to draft something, get with Becca, maybe somebody, and we'll do another doodle poll, figure out when people are available. And then if you'll send that out in advance, once we get a meeting date and time, we can take a look at that and fine tune anything that might need to be fine tuned. Commissioner Ballard?
Is this something that couldn't just be put into a doodle request and we just respond yes or no instead of having another meeting about it?
Well, so what I could do is I could put it together. I could send it out to all of you and then say, let me know without responding to everyone if you have concerns with this. If anybody has concerns, then I could let Becca know. And I mean, concerns that are something that needs to be discussed. Then I could say, okay, looks like we need another meeting. Otherwise, if nobody has any real concerns, then that could be presented as a resolution to the commission to amend the policy.
I'm assuming Commissioner Lance doesn't want another meeting. Commissioner Simmons is nodding. This was Commissioner Ballard's idea. So it's all good if we can handle it that way.
That's an outstanding idea. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well done, Jill. Thank you.
All right.
Next item on the agenda are public comments. Eric, do we have anyone wishing to make a public comment?
We have no public, Vice Mayor.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any additional committee comments? No? Seeing no further business before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for your time this afternoon.
Thank you, Sophia, for running.